Hello, I'm Dr. Ashley Greenwell. I'm a psychologist and I specialize in helping people manage complex life challenges. So that might be navigating a chronic medical illness, trauma, or other life stressors that many of us are having to face right now. And I often spend a few minutes early on when I'm working with my clients, helping them understand how stress manifests in the body because I think we've learned a lot about stress and what we can do, even though that term's been around for a really long time. I usually like to start by helping people uh, get a sense of sort of what the different levels of stress are and our own internal gas and brake pedal to be able to upregulate when we need a demand and then downregulate as well. And I let people know really there's not anything inherently good or bad about what our body does and how it manages stress, but rather it's sort of is your body responding in a way that fits the situation? So when we take a look here at our autonomic nervous system, there is a part of our body and internal processes that help us be in a pretty calm, relaxed, happy state, like this green zone. And, we love having people in our space when we're in the green zone. We are creative, we're open, we're flexible. We don't have an agenda for what needs to unfold in the moment. And that's where a lot of people's really beautiful moments and peaceful moments seem to happen. But on the other hand, we certainly need to be able to upregulate for situations. So if I am giving a talk or if I am, doing something physically demanding, I'm going to need to be more activated. We all do. And then at really extreme levels, our body can sort of freeze and shut down. So again, none of this is good or bad. It's just simply knowing the things that get us activated, like critical feedback, perhaps, and the things that calm us and being able to apply those skills intentionally. And I will say this, that from an evolutionary perspective, clearly it was safer and more protective to err on the side of caution. And so what that means is that it's very easy for us to hold tension and stress in our body and get used to it because clearly the caveman that double checked or erred on the side of caution is the one that survived. The one that assumed, oh, I'm sure it's fine, may be less likely to pass their genes on. So again, not good or bad. It's just simply if you're stuck in this yellow zone when you're trying to relax with a nice dinner with friends, that's just not going to work very well. You're not going to enjoy it. And so certainly some of the things about living today have made it much harder. And, I could do a whole nother talk on the challenges of modern civilization, but suffice it to say that the daily routines that many of us are in do not provide the opportunity to naturally get movement, get the range of nutrients that we might normally get, have downtime where there's very little stimulation. And so what that means is that active intentional management of our stress response is pretty important. And so I work with people to be very deliberate throughout the day, that psychological first aid, when little bumps and hiccups in the road happen, noticing them, using a skill, and trying to get back down to baseline. So you avoid that just accumulation of tension and stress in your body that at the end of the day can make it really hard to fall asleep, or you're waking up at 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning and your mind's still racing. The other point I will make with stress is that what we know is it's an allostatic and not a homeostatic process. And what that means basically is that, for homeostatic processes like body temperature, there is a set window that you need to stay in. And if you get out of that, your body tries to get you back in pretty quickly for survival. However, for stress, we can adapt to higher and higher levels of chronic stress. And while that's really wonderful because it can allow you to persist in a situation instead of just collapsing in a stressful environment, it also is sort of like boiling the frog. And what that means is that your body can sit in this chronically inflamed state, which can lead to a set of physiological problems, GI distress, and so on, without you becoming even aware of it, right? Or kind of chronic neck and back pain. You don't even realize that you're tensing it. And so I think that's really important because oftentimes my clients are very attuned to dealing with the stressor in front of them and not the stress response in their body. So they can, if they have something upsetting or really frustrating happen, they can stay calm, externally at least, and they can say what they need to the person to address or resolve the situation. But then what they may do is just sort of carry on with their day and neglecting the fact that, hey, their body has prepared internally and maybe released some hormones and is still having a stress response that hasn't been soothed and re-regulated, but they're off distracted doing something else. And that unaddressed kind of stress response is a problem. So again, that gets at this idea of psychological first aid, where I teach skills of, gosh, it should just happen automatically. It would be nice if we just automatically return quickly to our baseline, because that's what we call resiliency. But now it requires some intentionality, frankly. So in terms of an experiment, one thing I'll have clients do is to get really aware of sort of what are the top 5 things in their life that get their kind of push that gas pedal, upregulate our nervous system, and really knowing them and preparing and actively having a plan to manage them when they arise. And I think it can be really idiosyncratic. I work with some, emergency or first responders where certain situations you would think cause a stress response, they just don't. Whereas getting criticism from a partner might just really stick with them, right? Or trying to upload a document and it's been a half an hour. That might, send some people through the roof. And then the same thing with the brake pedal, knowing things that activate that calming, rest, digest, tend and befriend response that I mentioned, getting back in that green zone. And I also think that that's idiosyncratic. And I'll spend a lot of time working with people to figure out, for example, does a massage calm you down or does it stress you out? Right? What does music, how does that impact you? When you put your face, let's say in ice water, does that kind of jolt you and reset you, or does that sound like a horrible idea? So really making sure that your plan fits what your body needs. And then the last thing I will teach people about stress is that, and this is well described in a book called Burnout, that we have these internal monitors. And our stress response is not just based on the severity of the situation we're encountering, but how the situation fits with our expectations of what was going to unfold, right? So if we can steel ourselves and prepare for a difficult circumstance, and oftentimes the stress response may not be too large, but when we predict something will be straightforward and easy, and then we're unfortunately surprised and we haven't budgeted for that and we're running within thin margins or just going, that's when there can be a pretty strong, intense frustration or stress response, right? Because you don't have the resources. So that is sort of the broad kind of framework that I give people. And then in an upcoming session, I'll talk more about what are the skills that can be used specifically to be able to help people regulate their stress response in a really intentional way. Thank you so much for listening. Take care.